Welcome back, everybody, to Soulful Conversations. It's Ash Grunwald here, and we're happening again. I had a couple of months off while I've been just touring the country like a maniac, launching Surf by Day, Jam by Night, my first book, and also my album Mojo. And it's just been so rewarding to be out there and meeting so many people who've been tuning into the podcast. I know that it does mean a lot to a lot of people. It means that the world to me doing this podcast. Some of the conversations that we've had have just been amazing. So if this happens to be your first one, we've got about 6 other episodes. So jump in there and do the deep dive and snaffle them up, because there's a lot of wisdom in there. Anyway, I know you're going to enjoy this podcast with my good friend, Mr. Bobby Arlou, who is currently touring his album Flow, and he's touring the country, and we just had the best of chats, as we always do. So without further ado, Mr. Bobby Arlou. Welcome to Soulful Conversations with Ash Grunwald. In this podcast, we interview inspiring and amazing people, musicians, surfers, and experts in mindset, creativity, health, well-being, and making the world a better place. I'm tired of beating around the bush. I want to go deep and have a soulful conversation.
This podcast is brought to you by Earth Bottles. At Earth Bottles, we are on a mission to end single-use plastics, offering a full range of beautiful double-insulated bottles, reusable coffee cups, food and tea canisters, stainless steel straws, bags, and lots of plastic-free eco-goodies. Earth Bottles proudly supports the Breast Cancer Network of Australia, Beyond Blue, Hope for Health, Clean Coast Collective, 15 Trees, Bali Baby House, and the UN Refugee Agency. So head over to www.earthbottles.com.au for a 10% discount using the promo code ASHLOVESME. Together we can make a change and break up with single-use plastics.
Okay, here we are, Soulful Conversations, Byron Bay edition. We're at the Pass Caravan Park in my motorhome, and I am joined by none other than Mr. Bobby Arlou. How you going, brother?
Greetings, Ash. Great to be here. Great to see you, as always.
Now, you got a little album coming out in August, I think?
Yeah, sometime soon, August or September. You know what it's like. Albums, they always take time, but it's definitely finished and just kind of like tying the bow.
Beautiful stuff. Now, we're all formal about this, the way we started this podcast, but really we're not formal at all, people. And we've been friends for a long time, and we just, every time we get together, we have an absolute laugh. And that's one of the things I love about Bobby. One of the many things. He is a funny character. And I guess we got to know each other a lot better when we did a tour together around America with Xavier Rudd. I was doing the supports, and Bobby was actually playing drums, because that's another string to this character's many bows. I don't know how those work, but the guy's also one of the best drummers around. What can we say about that bloody tour? We had a ball, that's one thing.
Yeah, that was great. US is a huge place, so being stuck on a bus with Rudd and you and Uncle Tio for, I think it was about a month or maybe more, just kind of sailing around, was a good time. A lot of great adventures, too many laughs, and now just awesome epic memories.
And we could delve into a couple of those. I mean, yeah, there were some really extreme ones. We certainly did have a good time. And we might come back to that. But let's go back into history. I mean, as people of the fans of the podcast will know, I'm just about to release a little book, and this is my little sideways way of plugging that, of course. But going through Jack Johnson, Pete Murray, Dave Rastovich, many of these successful people, they actually had a sporting career before their music career, and I'm like, wow, it's just so staggering. I mean, I grew up doing a lot of sports and taking it seriously too. Now you had an athletic career, Bobbler. Give us the big rundown on that.
Yeah, it was. It's strange to think about that because it feels so far away, so long ago.
Keep going. Sorry, people. I'm just spinning this microphone around.
It's strange to think about, the past and my athletics career because it was so long ago. But at the time, it was everything. It was, I used to train every afternoon after school. But basically, I did athletics. I was a sprinter. I did hurdles as well and long jump, and I basically did it all through high school. And I think I broke heaps of records, and it was just
wow.
I don't know. It's weird talking about it because it seems so long ago, but yeah, it was a good time. Like I remember when I one of the big things for me was breaking 11 seconds in the 100. I did it when I was 15, and wow. I did a lot of hurdles. I represented Australia and Queensland, and it was definitely a big part of my life.
Wow. I didn't know you are a humble dude because I knew you killed it. I didn't know you represented Australia. So what was that in?
It was in hurdles. It was in the 110 metre hurdles I think it was like the Youth Olympics or something like that. It was, like Australia has one of the best athletics programs for juniors. Like there's a lot of opportunity. The hard thing is just like stepping over from junior to senior and professional. I think out of all the people I ran with, I probably knew maybe three that, 3 out of hundreds that basically made it to the Olympics and won medals,
So it just is interesting because, like, in general life, you don't bump into many people who represented Australia for this and that. There's a few around. But I just find from interviewing people, there's a lot of musos that no one thinks of music connected to athletics or anything. What do you think? And I'm thinking I'm leading you down a path here maybe, but like I think there's some psychological attributes that sports people have that get to a high level. I mean, is there anything that you think you took when you left that you took into your music?
Yeah, that's a good point, Ash. I think I did, even though sport and music are, one would say they're pretty unrelated. Actually, they are quite similar in the focus and the routines that you have to go through. And, for me, I literally stopped doing athletics and started music. It was like the baton change, one stopped in the other. Like I figured, I remember just on an oval, you'd have to run around in circles till you spewed, stacking up against like playing music and probably only spewing from too much alcohol. It was easy for me to decide which one I preferred. And, but just automatically changing careers as such, I already kind of had that focus and drive to just to practice or just to play heaps of gigs. And, it's grueling on the road. Like that tour that we went on in the US, you play every night. You wake up in a new city, you kind of have a look around, might go for a run or something, then you do sound check, then you have dinner, then you do the show, then you go to sleep, and then you wake up, repeat, next city. It is kind of like day in, day out. So yeah, I guess going from sport to music is, that seemed pretty easy.
Yeah, I think if there's any talent that people who come from an athletic career have, it's focus. And it's funny on this podcast interviewing people, I think all of the people I've interviewed this would work for, but I see it in, it's funny how I started the podcast with John Butler, who's very focused and wise. and then I went straight to Ziggy Alberts, who's killing it. And it was. I just did a tour. I just did a gig with Bigsy, his sound guy, and Bigsy we were saying how good it is and how he's killed it, and he was saying it's not that long ago we were setting up for a Sea Shepherd gig in Brunswick Heads at a free benefit gig, and now he's playing Sydney Mime Music Bowl in but then when I interviewed him, that focus. I was just blown away by his level of focus at such a young age. It's just interesting when you meet people who are very successful. It seems like there's a little bit of a backstory there. You realise there's some depth, and maybe I'm wondering if the main gift that anyone has in life is focus.
Yeah, that's true, isn't it? And yeah, man, Ziggy, what a great human, and John as well. Basically. Anyone that we probably look up to, you could see that's what they have, that's what they hold. But, I guess for me, it's getting harder to not be distracted. And for me, like, focus is just not being distracted, Basically, with our little rectangle machines that live in our pockets, like, you can just be distracted like that. You pick up your phone, you're like, oh, you're on this path, you're on that path. And, yeah, basically, if you can just kind of just solidly focus on one thing and give it all your love and attention, then that'll get the best it can.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Last week I did this thing down in Melbourne, a thing for APRA. If people don't know, what's that? Australian Performers Rights Association or something, but it's the songwriters. It's for songwriters. I was giving advice to songwriters and I said a lot of things, but one of the main things was don't watch Netflix and don't... and Netflix is great. Don't watch Netflix and don't scroll. Like when you get on your phone, be that kung fu master, be Master Ugoi who can get on social media and do something you want to do without watching what everybody else is doing.
Yeah, it's true. And I also was speaking to someone recently about that whole scenario, and I feel like with focus, if you're going to watch Netflix, then just do it. But just kind of be present. Just know that that's your hour off. You don't have to think about anything right now, and all you're going to do is watch, Narcos or something like that.
Which was
watch
great.
a Mexican drug lord. Just kind of be in that world for an hour, and then when it's gone, it's kind of like then you shift your focus into being productive or being whatever. I think it's just kind of easy to be distracted, and when you kind of give relaxation your full focus, or you give like work your full focus, it's just kind of like zoning on that thing. That's kind of my battle, and I really love it when I get it right. When I'm like, boom, I kind of had this. I kept my focus, and I was in the game there. Love that.
Wow, that's a really worthy aim. I think if I've learnt anything in the last, couple of years, I think that's what it is. It's a subtle thing. And I like how you said that. If you're going to watch Netflix, do it, It's almost like just taking control of your... this sounds like a weird self-help thing, but like taking control of your life and going, right, this is what I'm doing right now. I'm choosing all the things that are in your life, because it's really easy. There's some cool quote, I just can't quite remember it. Like you got to make those decisions, or the people around you will make those decisions for you, and you can spend your whole life just floating and kind of doing it, kind of doing all the same things, but you're not actively choosing it. It's like like you could have the best ship ever, but like if you're not steering it, it's, like actively steering and say, you know what, let's get out a map. Let's go to Bermuda. No, not Bermuda. That's the place you don't want to go. Stay away from that triangle. But, this is where we want to go. Let's go to Samoa.
Yeah, you're right, man. You're right. And I think the analogy is like, well, one of them is like you're either in the grandstand or you're on the court. You know what I mean? Like, you're either just watching what's going down or you're actually in there and you're determining what's going down, you know? And that is a powerful place, you know? If you, like, everyone, I feel like we all want to be heard. We all have got these things that we want to do, but it's like, all you have to do is do it. What a crazy concept. It's just amazing how hard it is, though.
Yeah, and I guess, you know, the word that people give, I think we're talking around something here. I think the word people give to it is mindfulness. It's like... or they say, be here now, or there's a million ways of saying it, but whatever you do, be there. And I don't think there's ever been a harder time to do that and to maintain that focus. And like Ziggy said in his interview with me about those miraculous devices in our pockets, it's a good chance to deal with addiction. And I was just checking out my man, Sadhguru. I love him. He's so hilarious. And I talked to John about him in the first podcast, but they were asking him about gadgets. And he was saying, you know, like, he uses them every day and he loves them, but they never use him. And people blame the miraculous little square thing in your pocket. But the problem is your compulsiveness. Work on your addictions and your being compulsive. And that's what you're saying is, like, make your everything you do intentional. Yeah,
totally. You know, and it goes with that, this, you know, really simple things too. Like, you know, I just think, you know, with my partner, and, you know, there's so many times where I'm sort of half on my phone, or I'm half doing this one thing and half doing that and half hanging out with her. And, you know, I find it's just much better if I just choose one of those things. You know, and I'm there and I'm present. You know, I'm just like, hang on a sec. You know, I just kind of need to finish this, and then I'm locked in. I'm focused. I finish it, because when you are focused, you finish things quicker. You know, and then just move on. Like, there's a full stop, and now I'm present with you right now. You know, I just feel like that's just, you know, it's fair to the other person, it's fair to you, and, you know, it gives you a good shot at just kind of enjoying now and enjoying the situation you're in.
I saw that guy, Jay Shetty, on the internet, and he had a great theory. I think it was him. He had a great theory. He's like, he was saying something similar, like, there's nothing more important than your ability to focus. So you need to practice that every day. Anything you practice every day, you'll get good at, which I agree with. I wrote a song about that on my second album called Every Day. Because it can be bitching, it can be anything you practice. You can practice negativity, you can practice making excuses, you can practice eating cream donuts, you can practice drinking. So anything you do every day, you get better at. So he's like, the most important thing in life is to be able to focus, like we're saying. So a deeply spiritual practice is to practice focusing on something you do every day. Well, you talk to your partner every day. So when you're speaking to your partner, concentrate 100%. This is your spiritual practice. Concentrate on what your partner is effing saying and listen to them. And so I suggested that to Danny, my wife. She hasn't started yet. I'm hoping she will.
Everything's a work in progress. It is. But yeah, that's so true, isn't it? You know, it's like, far out. It's, you know, it basically, when you focus, I feel like you listen. You know, because it's like, and that's in music, you know, it's in music, the most important thing for me is listening. You know, it's kind of like, that's how you get great, is basically by being, you know, focused, present in the moment, and just like listening to everything that's coming in, all the information that's coming in, so you can supply information, i.e. music, drums, uke, singing, whatever it is, and you can be the best fit for that moment. And so the same's with combos, you know, it's like, you know, there's always those people in your life that just talk at you, and it's kind of like, it's just not that pleasant. You know, it's much better if you're kind of both present and listening to each other. You know, it's surprising how hard it is to get there, though.
Yeah, it's a worthy aim. I think any thought process is like a sit-up or a push-up or something. You've got to build that muscle, and building that concentration muscle I think it's emerging, and it will continue to emerge as one of the most important things for our happiness on the inside and our success. So I remember you saying that in a big part of this new album that you're working on, or that I think it might have been even pre-production or coming into the album, is flow. So can you tell me a bit more what you meant by that?
Sure. Well, I wrote a bunch of songs, over 3 or 4 years, and then I realised that they're all about the same thing.
Yeah.
And basically what was on my mind is this kind of flow state, or just being in flow. And the kind of analogy that I sort of put to that is just when things feel good, when they're right. Like, I see, when you see like a bricklayer just kind of killing it, and you can just see them like in the zone, or like sports. Like I watched the last NBA season, and seeing some of those players when they're just in complete flow, like nothing can touch them, and you're just like, what is that? Dancers, surfers. Like I always find that with Dave Rustovich, like watching him surf is like watching someone in complete flow. It's beautiful to watch, and I see that with Harry Angus when he's playing music. He's a real flower, like that state inspires me, and like it reminds me when I see someone in that state, it reminds me to find my flow, and so I wrote all these songs about when flow's bad, when it's good, and I really sort of tried to tune into that to dictate the path of my life and where I was kind of headed.
Wow. So I gather that you wrote songs about that. If you're anything like me, you probably wrote those songs because you just can't help writing those songs because that's what you're thinking about. Is there a hope that people get something out of that? What's your hope for the people who listen to that?
Yeah, it is. I think like it's funny. This I've always written music that's pretty light, and I like to be not so serious. We have a good time, but I guess this last record, it was pretty much a mental health record for me, basically. Right. It was just kind of going through these realizations, and a bit like your path, and I'm inspired by your journey. Especially the last few years as we've gotten closer and hearing about, what you're up to. It's just kind of like, you really do have to, be present and be on the court in finding and being in charge of your life, because you are, And so, basically these songs are just kind of snapshots of times when, when I was realising the flow was real bad and I had to change it up, or when it's like just rocking and you're like, holy crap, I love this, I love my life right now, and it's not necessarily what everyone else thinks it should be, it's what I think it is, and it's just been the focus for me the last few years.
Wow. Now, I'm thinking about flow, I'm thinking about changing things up, and it's funny, years ago when I lived in Byron, there's a couple of good drummers, and some of the best drummers in Byron. I'm playing with one of them, Pete Wilkins. There's another two that I was always like, these guys are cats. And it was you, and it was Grant Garathy. And then you ended up playing with Rudd, and Grant ended up playing with John Butler, which was absolutely insane to see it go down. And then now you've both on very good terms with those guys, so this is not a gossip column here, but you've both chosen to leave that. And I just think, when there's a gig where you're touring the world, playing to gazillions of people, and it's just like high fives and, it's everybody killing it. The cork is flying out of the champagne after every gig.
Literally.
But you guys have chosen to leave that, and you're both happy. So can you tell us a bit more about that? Because, I know that can be... I've had a few things like that in my life, and it can be really hard to make those choices sometimes, but I think often you end up happy from them.
Yeah, totally. It is, man. That was a really hard choice because, the Xavier gig for me was insane. It was amazing. Like I literally met the guy at a Coliseum Gas charity event in Lismore, and there was probably 50 people there. Like it was not very well organised and, quite small. But basically we met, and then he literally was like, "Oh, good to meet you. Love how you play. Do you want to have a jam?" So I went to his house in New Brighton, and we that little shack, and we had a 20-minute jam, and then he said, "Great, sounds great. Let's do a gig." And so then he's like, "I've got a gig next week. Do you want to play?" And I was like, "All right, cool." And then the gig was Blues Fest. So I guess 10 years earlier, I went to my first Blues Fest as a punter, and I think I was early 20s. And actually, I don't even know, but I remember just thinking that's amazing, and I want to do that, I'd love to play. I'd love to know what that feels like. And I remember in my head, I was like, I'd be really well rehearsed, and, have everything will just be right. But basically, a Rudd rocks up, and so we had this 20-minute rehearsal. It was an hour set, rocked up to the gig. And there I am with in-ears for the first time, side stage, 10, 15,000 people, and then on stage doing an hour set after a 20-minute jam. And it was great. It went really well because then the next day he was like, "That was great, let's go to the US." And that started 5 years of an amazing friendship and epic gigs. And, so to leave that was not... Yeah, it was interesting. I just sort of felt... it kind of ties in, like some of these songs that I wrote sort of touch on the feelings I had, and basically, I just kind of felt like I would be doing it for the wrong reasons, and I had this feeling that I wanted to be home more. I wanted to, write my own songs a bit more and sort of follow that path, and my creativity was flowing there, but I had this weird thing stopping me. I don't know why, but it just felt like it was the wrong thing to do, to stay in this gig with Xav. And so it just kind of happened, and basically I decided to leave, and I remember it was a really tough choice, but basically in order to make that decision, I remember thinking, holy crap, this is going to be tough. So I basically started training. I started getting fitter and doing daily meditation, because I just really wanted to make sure I was making the right choices for me, not for other people.
Wow.
And
can I interrupt?
Yeah.
So in the way of mental you wanted to have your mental training up to scratch to make a good decision, because it was a big decision. So you trained your brain and lifestyle to make a decision. Yeah,
I did. I just think I just kind of felt, because I feel so strongly about both the things, the Xav camp I loved, I loved this new journey that I was about to embark on, and my dreams, and I just felt like there was a lot distracting me, and I just kind of wanted to be fit and healthy to make, just to make good choices, because, I felt like this was a big choice in my life, and also, it was a great incentive for me to be more healthy, to get fitter and to feel good in my body, and so basically that happened. I took some time out with my lady, and we kind of I just made the choice and moved forward, and it was beautiful. It was a great thing. I'm still really close buddies with Xav and his team, and I've kind of opened up this new possibility with my own music and my travels and my experiences, and I'm really happy about it.
And since then, you've actually supported Xavier, and you've supported John Butler, and you supported Trevor Hall, and what other stuff?
Oh, totally. It's kind of I think of it as your life is kind of like a garden. You've got all these plants, and you're fostering them, you're watering them, you're doing everything you can. And then, basically, your life gets to a point that's so full, your garden's so full, you got to pull stuff out, so other things grow. And I sort of was I basically just pulled out a massive tree that was really great and I loved. But now with that space, with the space in my life, I just had all these other opportunities that came by. And, last year was an amazing year. Yeah, I supported a lot of amazing artists and sort of built more friendships and had more adventures. And, it's kind of like, it just, for me, last year was more important for me to make my own music to a room of 100 people than it was to play drums for someone else to 20,000. Like the gratification that I had in my heart was much greater, and that just made me feel much better. So I feel like it's a no-brainer to have chosen that. Yeah.
So if Bobby can leave that great gig playing drums, you, in your day job, leave now. You're listening to this on the way to work. Leave now. Only joking. But I don't want to be responsible for that. But, it should be. I think it's a good inspiration to a lot of people. I had that with the Triple J gig that I used to do years ago. Yeah, It was right in the middle of the Roots thing. And when the Roots thing was so huge and kind of almost mainstream. And that Triple J Roots show was a big part of that. And for me, it was almost a hard ego thing of I don't really want to be doing this anymore. I love it, but it's too much work and it's too much like a day job. And but it took me a fair few months to actually to leave that, because it's your whole life all you ever dream about is you're living your dream when you're doing these certain things, and to walk away from a really good opportunity just feels counterintuitive sometimes. So it's a brave person who can do that. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, I agree.
Now, you're a bit of a bitzer like me. We're those little coloured guys. My dad's coloured South African. And where's your mum from?
My mum's Samoan.
So what effect does that, anyone who's seen your show might think this is a moot point, but it's a leading question, let's put it that way. So what influence has that had on your life and your music?
Yeah, it's been huge. I think I think any kind of multi-race human has questions. Lots of them, and that for me, when I was growing up, early to late teens, I was kind of confused. Looking back, at the time, I kind of didn't realise what was going on. But basically, I'm neither Samoan nor Australian. I just had that trip. At times I really connected with the Samoan culture, and then other times, I knew that I just wasn't that at all. And it took me a long time to realise that I was both, and that they both have. Yeah, they are. I am that, and it's amazing to kind of be, comfortable in your skin and comfortable with your culture. And, for me, my connection to Samoa is music. Basically, my uncles and my mum taught me how to play, and so that's kind of been my thing. And on my drum kit, I have a Samoan drum that basically I use. And there's all of the beats that I play. I have this kind of Polynesian influence, and I can't really shake it. It's one of those things that it's just me. It's just what I grew up with, and it's my influences. So, I wear that as a badge these days. And there's many other things other than just music that really inspire me about the Samoan culture. I love how involved and how respectful they are of family, and community, and it's quite a beautiful thing that they have, where usually over there your best friend's your cousin or your brother. You're just so involved in each other's everyday activities. So I really enjoy that part of it, and it's something that I try to replicate and try to live in my life, is just kind of being respectful of friends and trying to be there for other people. It's a beautiful thing. But Samoans are really good at that, and there's bits and pieces from their culture I love to kind of take.
It's in all of you, Bobbler. That smile. You have the islander, in your music and in your life and the way that you treat people. You have that islander happiness and charisma and joy that you spread.
Awesome. Yeah, well, it's, I'm inspired by it. I love it. I think it's great. And yeah, it's, I love how my mum can just she's just so good at being, she's so good at like doing nothing, like she just can sit there and chat. We went to Samoa on a family trip and we went to an auntie's house for breakfast, and basically we had breakfast and then it was a long one because there was a lot of food, and then everyone just had a nap. So there's 20 people and we all just had a nap, and then we woke up and then we just kind of sat there chatting, and basically that was pretty much the day events.
Wow.
Then we went home just before dark. So, it's just like a day like that is just, it's really beautiful. It's I feel like the Australian side of me is like, I feel guilty with that day because, I should be doing some work to get ahead or this and that. But, I think it is really important to do nothing and just be and then just let the day roll sometimes. And, that, my Samoan culture is a real reminder of that.
Yeah. I was thinking about that. I mean, I've had 2 days where we Airbnb'd our place out and just parked our motorhome here. I'm just here with just the kids. Danny's working in Melbourne. And there's a lot of things I could have done, but I thought, I'm just going to let these kids just go and play on the beach, and I'm just going to sit there. And I just, I think of myself as cruisy, and I live, my life. I think I always do what I want to do, but really, I mean, how often do I just do nothing? It is really rare for anybody in Australia. I think it's rare anyway.
Well, we've got that culture. Australian culture is like hard working, like we're reliable, and those words are great because it's it is true, and it is a great virtue to be, back to the focus thing, to be focused and be a good worker. But far out, you can be a reliable relaxer. And you can be, and everyone needs that. You need that time off. I sort of feel like lately, I've been that plate spinner. The plate spinners, you've got like 5 plates in the air and you're just spinning them all and you're loving it and it's crazy and but imagine if all those plates were down and you're just like sitting down having a joint. Like what a great that's a great day too. But for some reason that's looked upon as bad or as lazy, and I feel like we should take that back, man, because everyone needs those lazy days, and the worst thing you could do is feel guilty.
Yeah, I totally agree. There's a couple of things that brought up for me. One is, I don't know, if anybody listening here hasn't travelled very much, you would be shocked. We think of ourselves as mellow here in Australia, and we're kind of casual in some ways, definitely. But one thing that shocked me from touring the world is I think we are about the hardest working people that I know. Especially if you compare it to our other Western buddies, now don't anyone get offended out there, but in Canada, in England, in, America, and these are generalizations, but the way I did things or the way other people did things, I was like, wow, in Australia they'd be, they just work so much harder, and we think of ourselves as so laid back. And that was one of the great things about travelling. I think sometimes you realise, let alone Europeans, and then we get to Islanders. But even in Europe, often people aren't slaving we've got in Australia. We've got such a great place and such a great landscape and all of these things, but people have got a lot of debt, and they're getting up and they're working hard, 6 days a week, some people 7, others 5, but people are working long and hard, and that's what we've always done. I think something I've got from this podcast with you is focus is important, but maintain your sovereign right to direct your focus in the way that's important to you, and if it's directing it towards rest and directing it towards chilling out and not doing anything, that's just as important.
Yeah, totally agree. It really is. But it's being present, in that. Because how many times, I do it all the time, how many times you have, a day off and you're just kind of like, I'll just do a few emails here, or, I'll just kind of, I'll just do this, that, and you're sort of half there. So you kind of don't get either. You don't really get to finish anything that you're meant to be working on, and you don't get to relax. It's kind of like double-edged sword a bit. Yeah, man. Well, far out. I think I got that too.
That's the best thing about this. Well, you know what? It's an example of it, because we have these kind of conversations all the time.
Yep.
But they're throwaway. But then we put this microphone on and we do a podcast. Now we're really directed at those words, and now we're taking notice of the words that are coming out of our mouth.
It's true,
so
man.
It's an example of the focus that you're talking about. Okay, so just in wrapping up, I want to ask this question for musicians first, and then for people in general. From your life thus far, for a young whippersnapper out there, or somebody, any musician, are there any daily practices or recommendations that you would advocate?
Learn how to nap.
Yeah.
Learn
how to nap.
Yeah, I feel like naps, actually I got a bit of a nickname on some of the tours. They call me the Nap King.
Yeah.
Nap King Cole. And it is, it's basically connected to rest, but basically, a 20-minute nap will set you up for so many amazing things. We talk about that focus. Think of the times when you can best perform, whether it's work, whether it's, anything really, even a party, or if you just want to be, you want to be your best self. If you're rested, then you're ready to go. And the reason where I got it from was actually in my athletics days. I remember at a competition, Cathy Freeman was there, and she had a race on. She had a 200-metre race on at 4, and it was about 20 past 3, and I saw her, and she wasn't going to the warm-up track to warm up. She was finding a place to nap, and she had a 20-minute nap basically before her race.
Are you kidding me?
No, I'm not kidding you. And then I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to do that. She's Cathy Freeman. So I started sort of doing that before, and now I can get down. I can do a 7-minute nap.
Wow.
In a band room if I need to. And a quick tip, if you can't nap, basically to get there, I reckon what you need to do is you need to lie down and you need to close your eyes and basically try not to fall asleep. As soon as you try to fall asleep, it's over. So what you do is you close your eyes, and if you can just close your eyes and be still for 5 minutes, then you've rested. You're done.
Wow.
So basically, if you just start there, then and you just kind of repeat that over the course of days, weeks, months, whatever, then you'll find that sometimes you just doze off, and then you'll kind of have a bit of a nap. So that's kind of your starter pack. Bobby Arlou nap starter pack.
Nap King Cole has laid it down fat. And do you know what? I don't know if it's coincidence, but I just saw a little YouTube clip, and I've sent it to a few people, and they were saying that all of these, I'll put it in the show notes, but all of these athletes, they have 12 hours sleep, which is usually a long sleep and a nap. And Usain Bolt, before one of his main records, he was napping. He got up from his nap half an hour before he went out and did one of those Fat World records.
Told you.
So onto it.
Told you.
And I think, and they were saying, you've got all your biohacks and your nootropics and your this and your that, but napping is one of the biggest. Well, sleep in general, quality of sleep. And it's funny, some of the biohackers that I've checked out, they are one guy, he's the main one. He invented the keto diet, Dave Asprey.
Yep.
and he is rigorously monitoring his sleep, and he put more stem cells in. He set a world record for how many stem cells he filled his whole body with stem cells. Like, I guess he chucked a couple of mil worth of stem cells into his body, and he was like, my sleep stats are off the chart. But he's frothing on sleep, like it's like he just won the 100-meter. That he's like, I'm sleeping like a 20-year-old. And I'm like, really? You're boasting about sleeping? But I guess it's like actually one of the most important things.
Well, it's fuel. It literally is. It's kind of like, I'm into working smarter, and if you can be like efficient and work your butt off for like, X amount of hours and be present and be real, you'll get so much done. More done than underslept and like work the whole day. That's my theory. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, more bang for your buck, bro.
More bang for your buck, bro. I love that. And so I think that is a great little that's a great life hack as well as a muso hack. But do you have any other life hacks for the peeps listening to this right now?
Oh man, I'm on the spot. There's been so many. There always is when I talk to you. You're great. Well, the only thing that's in my head right now would be to say thank you and be to the people that you are close to. So thanks, Ash, for starting this podcast and for being, keeping yourself in check, and for starting this, because it's a wealth of wonderful information and it's been a great time to chat to you. And so, yeah, if you can kind of thank the people that you love and that you are close to, then, it could go a long way.
That's brilliant. Don't make me cry now, bubble up. Well, that's really great. Well, thanks a lot for being on the show, brother. You.
To the other side, to get to the other side. All I'm looking for is a way to the other side, a way to the other side.